Okay, I'm gonna finish it today. Let's do this. Continue. I'm so excited just to have everything answered. Oh, before we begin though, I was told to think about, if we're not Hokuto, then who could we be? Now the biggest hint would be Coco saying we're perception itself. I think we, Hokuto, are the player. I mean, that's the only sense it makes, you know? Only sense it makes, yeah. Because who else can we be? What other character? It can only be us. You know? Because we're the only one who knows just everything. Yeah. Us, the player, are the only one who knows everything. So yeah. Now I don't know what wrinkle is. Maybe that means yourself, or I, or something, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I think. I think Hokuto is us, the player. Seems reasonable, I guess, yeah? Who else can it be than us, the player? Anyway, load and continue. Dawn. I was in the middle of a white darkness. Before I knew it, I had become lost in another world. I didn't even have time to wonder where I was before I found the answer. The year was 2017. I could see it. I could see everything. I already knew what had happened at that time. Okay, so we're still viewing, you know, scenario with Takeshi. Takeshi jumped out of bed and stood up. He stretched his arms and loosened his shoulders. Takeshi and Tsugumi were still stuck in the examination room of the research facility. Tsugumi scooped up Chemi, who'd been running around on the floor, and held him to her chest. Stooping down, Tsugumi let out a cry of alarm. He looked under the bed he had been sleeping on. I wonder what's under there. Something was lying there. Reaching out, he pulled whatever was close to it. Oh, Pippi! Takeshi picked up Pippi in both hands and shook him lightly. There was no response, and all of the color had vanished from his eyes. He didn't move at all. Pippi was frozen, as if he were dead. Suddenly, a faded fragment of a memory appeared in the back of my mind. Although I've been weathered and tinged by the flow of time, it was a scene that I was positive I knew. It was a scrap of a conversation between Sarah and Yubusai Akikane. Robot dog? It's a robot dog? Wow. What? All this time I thought Pippi was a real dog. Wow. If they were talking about Pippi, that would mean Pippi was a robot. An electronic dog. Whoa, I actually never guessed that. Huh. Odd? No, I don't know. Huh. Yeah, wasn't any proof, but looking at Pippi's motionless body, it was obvious that it wasn't the dead body of an animal. Like a wind-up toy that stopped moving, Pippi's limbs had frozen in an unnatural position. Takeshi and Tsugumi both observed Pippi, who had become nothing more than a broken toy. Takeshi opened his mouth slightly. It seemed like he was about to say something. Suddenly, with a roaring sound, the whole room shook violently. Takeshi's body flipped like a small twig and flew into the wall. Tsugumi tumbled and danced through the air to fall on the floor with a thud. Oh snap. Oh, this music, I love this music. Holding Pippi under his arm, Takeshi looked up at the ceiling. Tsugumi quickly got up. Hey, this is different. Yeah. Yeah, now that Takeshi's roots, it's different. They don't have 5 minutes to escape, I think. I don't know, it's been quite a while. Tsugumi shrugged her shoulders exaggeratedly and stared at Takeshi. A smile floated to her lips, and Tsugumi held out a hand to Takeshi. Takeshi took her hand firmly. I continued to observe. I accepted the world as it was, understood it, and input it. I had no feelings. Feelings seemed to me to be something people give out in response to the world, as a way of igniting change in their surroundings. There at that time, I had no physical body. I had no hands, nor feet, no voice, no lungs, no organs for generating heat. In other words, I had no way of interacting with the world. Therefore, even if I would have had emotions, there was nothing I could do with them. The only thing I could do was watch. What's more, the act of watching was much different than what normally be associated with sight. This type of vision went far beyond feelings or thought. It was completely isolated, completely removed. The passage of time had condensed down to one moment, and that had exploded in front of me. I had seen everything in one instant. Standing still in the world where time had stopped, I saw everything. Interesting. In front of them, a small submarine bobbed gently in the waves. Only 3 minutes left. Takeshi and Tsugumi hurriedly scrambled onto the sub and jumped down the hatch. Tsugumi slid over to the driver's side of the cockpit, checked to see if the gauges were in order, and flipped some switches. Is Takeshi gonna die again? Please, no. Well, even if he did, it's kinda evidence that, you know, since they were injected with Tsugumi's antibodies, they now have cure. Kid kinda figured that out, you know, that Kaburaki and you are young, and I'm guessing Coco will be young. Okay, I saw a certain picture where there's Takeshi and the kid and Coco hugging or something like that. Takeshi's obviously gonna come back. Stupid picture spoilers. But anyway, no. Here, I'll show you the picture. No, actually, we're gonna see it anyway. But, yeah, they're all affected with cure, so they're young. But, if Takeshi's gonna die in the water, well, Tsugumi said it herself. Takeshi must be out there. He's not dead. He promised to me. What was my point again? I'm so sorry. But no, it's somehow Takeshi's gonna survive, even if he dies, quote unquote, or air quote, dies here. The hatch overhead closed automatically. Tsugumi took the controls. The mini-sub made bubbling sounds and sunk quickly into the water. As soon as they passed under the bottom of the IBF, the ocean current pushed on the heavy hull of their vessel. Takeshi looked out into the ocean from a small window attached to the wall. Lamy was breaking apart. The frame started to warp and fold on itself like some crumpled old newspaper. Partitions cracked into small pieces and fluttered in the water as if they were petals falling from a flower. Letting out its final breath, Lamy spewed out flying air bubbles into the sea, which flowed gently in the current. In the twisted wreckage, black smoke rose in the water. Pieces of iron drifting in the ocean glittered from the sunlight coming from above, and the edge of its rapidly clearing field of view, the sinking shadow of the brutal wreckage could be seen. Paradise sank into dark blue darkness, raising a spine-chilling death cry. I like the descriptions. Tsugumi asked in a quiet voice. A small egg-shaped vessel holding the two of them headed silently toward the surface. Takeshi spoke as he placed a motionless Pippi on the seat next to him. Takeshi smiled, but that smile would soon fade. Oh no. A heavy ringing filled the submarine. So Takeshi's gonna sacrifice himself again. Tsugumi looked at Takeshi worriedly. Operating console made a funny sound. The monitor behind Tsugumi started blinking. Looking like he didn't have any other choice, Takeshi peeked at the monitor. As if responding to what Takeshi said, the lights in the sub suddenly went out. The monitor went dark and all of the power went out. The electrical equipment went silent. The only thing still working was the analog pressure gauge. Present depth, 189 feet. Internal pressure, 12.5 atmospheres. Tsugumi's voice was shaking. Depth, 192 feet. Its momentum lost. The submarine began sinking slowly, very slowly. Residual air pressure, 0. Blast tank, unable to drain. Ballast. Wonderful. We hitched a ride on the junker. Depth 195 feet. I like how just Takeshi is optimistic. Takeshi looked at the aft hatch. It had a 2-ply hatch. An inner side was made of reinforced glass and FRP, and the outer side had a door made from high-strength steel. Depth 201 feet. They were sinking. Without any electricity, the submarine was just a hunk of metal. Tears began to fill Tsugumi's eyes. Tsugumi raised her voice. A single tear fell, rolling down the cheek. Tsugumi grabbed onto Takeshi's arm. He threw up Tsugumi's arm and raised up the glass hatch. It was just large enough for one person to go through. Tsugumi grabbed onto Takeshi's arm furiously. I like how this music is playing, and not the really, suspenseful dark music that played in Tsugumi's ending. Depth 207 feet. They wouldn't stop sinking. Slowly and steadily they fell, headed for the dark bottom of the ocean. For that instant, Tsugumi's grip relaxed. In that brief instant, Takeshi tore himself forcefully away from her grasp. He quickly opened the glass hatch and slipped to the back of the airlock. The area between the hatches was extremely cramped. Takeshi closed the glass hatch from inside and shut the latch right away. They had passed a depth of 210 feet. Tsugumi wildly pounded on the rear forest glass with her fist. Tears started falling from Tsugumi's wide-open eyes. Tsugumi desperately pounded the flat of her tear-covered hand against the glass. Tsugumi sobbed as she screamed. Takeshi put one hand behind him on the other hatch and slowly turned the handle. Tsugumi froze in place. Saying this, Takeshi continued to turn the handle on the other door without stopping. Depth 219 feet. I think the first time I went through Tsugumi's ending, I cried. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure I did. I mean, but since I'm going through this again, and without Karma playing, and with this music, this music's like hopeful or calm, or I don't know how to explain it, but it gives this scene a different feel, you know? Takeshi forced a smile. I'm not going to die. 222 feet. I also heard the joke about this picture and that Tsugumi's in the washing machine. It's so stupid. The hatch on the bottom of the submarine opened. The air, which had been compressed in the airlock, was jettisoned into the ocean. Takeshi's body shot out like a bullet into the water. Bubbles flew everywhere. An infinite number of white bubbles floated toward the surface. They seemed like powdery snow caught in the wind, snow that flew toward the heavens. He could no longer hear her voice. From the other side of the glass, he could make out her blurry outline. Her face covered with tears. Her face was broken with sadness. Takeshi paddled through the water, holding on to the railing. He closed the outside hatch. He couldn't see her anymore. He let go of his last source of support and kicked the sub. Takeshi's body spun out as if we're dancing into a blue world. He sank toward the bottom of the ocean. White bubbles extended out beyond his field of vision, wobbling slowly upwards toward the heavens. Depth 357 feet. Everything that he could see dissipated into the water. Outlines faded. Nothing came into focus. Only light and shadow reflected in his eyes. There was one thing, however, that he could see clearly through the haze. A small white dot swaying in the distance. Dazzling light from the sky poured down on him from a single point. Its image burned into both his eyes. He let out his last gasp of air. Cold seawater poured into his lungs. A blanket of blue darkness covered him in his final resting place. His limbs, sprawled out on the rocky ocean floor, had stopped moving like a marionette with its strings cut. Dad. Back in the world of 2034, when I returned to consciousness, I was crying. Feelings overcame me in torrents, rushing through me hotly. Dad is dead. The weight of my sadness pressed down on me, and a sense of futility tore a hole in my heart. But It was no time to be overcome by sadness. Wiping the wetness from my cheeks, I looked at my surroundings. A new day was breaking, just as it had been in 2017. Through my tears, the blue sky and ocean came into my vision. It seemed that I was above the floating island. Now, time to get all those answers. I'm ready. I could analyze the situation calmly, but the tears wouldn't stop. I wiped them away with the palm of my hand and licked the large drops as they rolled past my mouth. I do that too. Tears taste salty. Squeezing my eyes shut tightly, I took in deep breaths to calm down. I trembled slightly as I let out a sigh and looked around at my surroundings again. It was definitely above the floating island. The wind was blowing lightly and the green trees were swaying gently. The morning sun was letting out golden rays onto the surface of the ocean. It had been a while since I've been outdoors. The wide blue sky, the smell of the warm humid breeze, but as beautiful as it seemed, it didn't help me one bit. Rather, the richness of it made me feel even more alienated. I'm all alone, and so terribly sad. I wiped away the tears, which continued to flow, and tried hard to suppress my urge to cry out. I had to think. It was no time to be crying. I shook my head repeatedly and tried with all my strength to collect my atrophied thoughts. Think. First, I needed to grasp the situation I was in. I followed the threads of my memory. I remembered having gotten safely out of Lemu, but had no memories after that. I had no idea what had happened after that. I couldn't imagine that I'd been standing outside all night. Huh? I suddenly realized that nobody else was there. As I began to walk on grass, I looked widely in all directions. Soon, I became aware of one solitary figure. It was Kabiraki. He had his back to a tree trunk and was staring out into the vast ocean. I ran over to him and screamed at him. Why would you do something like this? Answer me! I know everything now! Kabiraki was silent. He wouldn't even look at me. It was obvious that he was the closest person to being responsible for everything happening here. I wonder why he did this, though. Maybe because he wanted Takeshi back too? Or, I don't know. Takeshi Kununari, my father's name. He had used his name to deceive us the whole time. Yup. I drew even closer. Say something. Don't just stand there. I said say something. I grabbed onto his shirt. Why not? Kabiraki's eyes were wet. He seemed to be thinking deeply about something as he gazed at me. This isn't over? What? I relaxed my grip. Kabiraki didn't say anything more and walked away, gazing in the direction of the distant horizon. I stood there, vacantly staring at his back while it became smaller and smaller. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder. Sora. I turned around and, yep, Sora was standing right in front of me. But wait, why can't she tap his shoulder? Is she a robot? What are you doing here? Only this thought didn't reach my lips. There clearly was no RSD on this floating island, but she had just tapped me on the shoulder. I couldn't process the information and stood there gaping in confusion. I reached out to touch Sora's arm, absent-mindedly. Her skin was smooth, its texture slightly elastic and warm to the touch. Sora grinned. There was Sora, smiling as always. I felt safe by her smile. I was led by Sora into the forest. The small stone-covered path was overgrown in a deep thicket. The tips of the trees stretched up high, almost entangling one another. Hardly any light squeezed through. There was no breeze here either. The air was wet and everything felt heavy and stagnant. The small stone path snaked around randomly, and I soon lost all sense of direction as I continued walking. I moved forward along the passage with no exit. For some reason I did not say a word to Sora, whose back was in front of me. Oh, she was holding his hand. I walked up beside her and interlaced my fingers in hers. I didn't know why I did that. I was just curious, or had I wanted a sense of security? Sora looked over at me and smiled. Maybe the reason I grabbed onto her was just because I wanted to see her smile at me. Not long afterward, we finally emerged from the forest. My field of view widened and beyond spread out in an area of lush green grass and the rich blue ocean. My line of sight was drawn to the back of someone very familiar to me. You. You was standing right in the center of the open space, and she was standing with her back to me. What? Why is this song playing? And someone else, a woman who looked just like her. They were facing each other and standing still. I braced against the rising tide of emotion within me and went to stand over by them. I flashed a look back. Sora was standing at the entrance to the forest, and they appeared to be coming closer. In the center of the area were you, the lady, and I. The other lady, of course I knew her name, Tanaka, Yubase Harukana. She had been infected with the Curie virus, and although she seemed young, she didn't look quite 17. It was probably since her cell had divided for 5 years, which had caused her to age slightly. In other words, her body was that of a 23-year-old, but she was actually 35. I looked over at you, Yubasai Akihana, standing next to me. She had her hand curled into a fist and was glaring at her mother. She was so mad she was shaking. I realized that the person who had been manipulating everything behind the scenes had been the person standing in front of me. Oh, yeah. So I guess basically everybody who escaped there made up this whole thing. Yubasai Harukana and Kabiraki, together they made, did this whole accident again. But was Tsugumi part of it? It seemed like she wasn't. It seems like Tsugumi wasn't part of it because Kabiraki said Kabiraki invited Tsugumi, right? She had been up here safe and sound on the island, relaxing, looking down at our plight, and had probably been laughing the whole time. Yeah, right. I glared over at her along with Yuaki. Yuharu appeared indifferent to our stares and said nonchalantly. I laughed without thinking. What the hell kind of thing was that to say? Why? Why would you do something like this? To call for... Who is Blink Finkel? What the heck is Blink Finkel? Blink Finkel is the kid? Me? I'm Blink Finkel? Huh. So I was right. Us, right? The you on the... Huh. Oh, okay. I'm... Who am I? Who are you? I am Hokuto. Who are you? Who am I? You are Hokuto. I am not Hokuto. I'm not Hokuto. I am me. I am me. Yes, I remember. I am me. I have watched your world for so long, watching. I am but a perspective, an eye that transcends dimensional boundaries. I am the third eye. I am Blickwinkel. I remember now. I am not from your world, am I? I am not Hokuto. Wow. A long time? Why? Please tell me why. So Blickwinkel is us? Us. Yeah, Blickwinkel is us. Yeah. I don't know why I had to process that. Why did you have to do this? In order to reach me, did you really have to do something so reckless and dangerous? Oh, I also like Yukasei Harukana's older self. She looks cool. Okay. Okay, I have to reread this at a later date. But why? Why? Why were you waiting for me? What reason could you have to call me? Huh? Exactly, huh? What do you mean? Why? Save Coco and Takeshi? Ah, yeah. The different routes, the different choices. I saw it then. I saw everything. My consciousness had detached from Hokuto and gone back to the world of 2017. Hokuto's feelings and thoughts hadn't reached me, but our perspectives had overlapped. An observer with no feelings. All I could do was witness events as they passed. Okay, now we're back to Takeshi. The submarine, but wow. Huh. So you needed Blickwinkel, or us, so we can change the past. Makes sense. The submarine that Tsugumi was on had continued floating up and had already made it to the surface. It was a small white vessel rocking in the waves. Shut inside a small submarine, Tsugumi's shoulder drooped as she sat in the cockpit in shock. Having lost everything, she sat there spiritlessly, looking empty like a glass ornament. Just then, the light came back on in Pippi's eyes, who moments before had been motionless at Tsugumi's feet. He got up quickly. She seemed to be unable to comprehend what was happening. Pippi shook off his body, flashed a look up to Tsugumi's face, walked over to stand in front of the glass hatch. Pippi began pawing at the hatch. Tsugumi mumbled weakly. She must be so heartbroken right now. Pippi stood facing the hatch and barked. Tsugumi's gaze wandered about as if she were thinking something over. Oh, so she's at the surface now. Pippi continued barking the whole time. The submarine rocked gently in the waves. Tsugumi put both her hands on the wall and looked outside of the window. Saying that, Tsugumi opened the hatch, not the glass one, but the heavy one on top of the submarine. A pure white light flashed into the interior of the ship like the sharp edge of a blade. Tsugumi squinted and get to the brightness. She held up one hand to fend off the light, with the other pushed on the hatch with all her might. She picked up Pippi and brought him outside of the boat. Pippi kicked hard against the hull to fly into the air, and jarring a beautiful arch, he splashed into the ocean. One mechanical dog swimming in the ocean. Down, down, down he went. He's gonna go get Takeshi! He didn't stop at 51 feet, 102 feet, 153 feet, 204 feet, 255 feet, 306 feet, 357 feet. The hard rock surfaced deep in the blue darkness. A man's body lay on the ocean bed. Pippi bit onto his clothing and pulled. Was he trying to bring him somewhere? Of course, the man didn't move at all. Pippi bit on some exposed flesh. Ugh. The man didn't respond. His life had expired. All that remained there was a cold corpse. Nothing more. Something had fallen to his side. A disc. Oh, Pippi retrieves the disc. A terabyte disc. Pippi picked it up in his mouth and left the body behind. He started swimming in the ocean. Going sideways, he cut across the water. At the bottom of the dark sea, there was only the cold surface of the rock and dark black seawater. Occasionally, delicate streams of light would pass by. Perhaps Pippi had found something. Without hesitation, Pippi swam straight toward the right building. Splash. The face of the single dog broke through the surface of the pool. This isn't IVF. He stuck out his front legs onto the edge and climbed onto the floor. He shook himself off. Small droplets of water flew off in all directions, forming a mist. The terabyte disc was still in his mouth. Pippi ran. He lost his footing on the wet floor, slipped and fell. Standing up again, he readied himself and dashed off at full gallop. Or is this IBF? No. Huh? His plant body shot like a coiled spring. Pippi ran down the passages, breaking to the right and turning to the left. He was aiming for something. Coco. Only her voice could be heard. Pippi barked loudly. The disc fell in his mouth to spin across the floor with a rap. Pippi quickly braked with all four legs, turned around to get the disc, and dashed across the floor again. Oh. When he turned the corner, her figure jumped out at him. She was lying down in the middle of the passage. Pippi ran over to her side. He set down the disc on the floor and, biting at her clothes, started pulling on her. He tried desperately to pull her along, but just as he could not budge the man before, it was too much for a small frame to budge her. She opened her eyes weakly. Pippi licked her face. pulled on her clothes and scratched her shoulder, grunting with his effort. Perhaps he realized there was nothing he could do, but Pippi barked frantically. She closed her eyes quietly. No matter how much he barked at her, she wouldn't open her eyes. Pippi started walking around the area. He finally stopped and picked up the disc that he had left on the floor and started running again. Going back the way he came, he made it to the pool. Without hesitating, he threw himself into the pool. He started swimming in the ocean, rising up and up. He didn't stop. 0 feet. Pippi's face broke the surface. The blue expanse of the sky loomed above them. The sun had changed water to a silvery color. So, was that IBF or what? I don't understand. And why was Coco there? Someone was there to pick up Pippi. It was you, Haru. She took the terabyte disc from his mouth and looked up the digital recording of IBF that Pippi had taken. Oh, so it was IBF. But didn't Leimu crash down? Left behind at the bottom of the ocean in the research facility was a single girl. Yeah, Coco. That girl was Coco. Oh. I thought Coco was with them. So, not only... Oh, that's so sad. But I thought Coco was saved with you and Kabaraki. Oh my. So that means in Sora's and Tsugumi's room, the person left behind was Coco. Oh, that's so sad. Coco was the person left behind. Oh my god. That's terrible. Whoa. But that's strange. Tsugumi rose to the top. Shouldn't, like, IBF be flooded? I'm confused. Can't believe it. Yeah, that's right. They rescued out the 3 people. And her father. So her father. Why did the rescue team leave Coco there? But wasn't she in the pod? Oh, I remember. By the time the rescue squad got there, Coco was in the examination room. I don't know why, but for some reason, Coco had gotten out of her capsule pod. So only people left there were you, Kabaraki, and Mr. Tanaka, who was already dead. Oh, so that wasn't Coco's father. Kabaraki's condition was extremely serious, so they put the highest priority on saving the lives of those two, and the rescue squad left, meaning they overlooked Coco. No, they abandoned her. You pinched her eyes shut, her face distorted in sadness. What do you want me to do? By the time these words left my mouth, I had already returned to Ever17, to that vast blue world. On the bottom of the ocean lay the cruelly broken body of a man. Ugh, Takeshi. It didn't move. What do you want me to do? I'm not from this world. The only thing I can do is look. Just look on. You want me to show this dead body? It makes me sad. Terribly sad. He had thrown his life away to protect a woman he loved. It was heartbreaking. His body had lost all warmth. I kept staring. Just then... Dad! 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 So this is Hokuto talking now. My awareness split, broke, fractured as if a powerful force of will woke up inside of me. I was infused with the overwhelming passion. Hokuto's unimaginable belief, willpower, emotions, and psyche were like a raging inferno that engulfed me. This ferocious and wild power raged within me and superseded my existence. Exploded in a shower of white sparks of light and roared like thunder. Overwhelmed by the raw vigor, I withdrew. There was no place for me to be. Hokuto exploded with bottled-up emotions and threw his instinctive power free into darkness. Now we hear the kid. Oh. Takeshi opened his eyes. At the bottom of the seabed, under unbearable pressure, he regained consciousness. How many minutes had it been since he last breathed? But he was undeniably alive. Holy crap. He had revived. I'm not going to die. I promised her. I could hear the screams of his mind in my ears. Takeshi flipped over his body, kicking off the reef and began to swim. Cut the water with his arms and kicked with his legs, continuing to swim wildly through the water. Water pressure did not faze him, and his body felt no resistance. He moved forward and back as if he were skating on ice. Bubbles trailed in the arc behind him. He maintained an unthinkable speed, tearing apart the wall of water in front of him. His only source of guidance was a faint light visible ahead. Amazing! His momentum carried him flying out of the water. Takeshi pushed his face out of the water, racked by a fit of violent coughing, and spewed out seawater from his lungs. He clung to the edge of the pool, sucking in deep breaths of air. He would partly taking a breath, only to throw up massive amounts of water. He repeated this many times. When the painful fits had finally died down, Takeshi lay exhausted under the bed. Truth be told, he probably had been dead. Takeshi crawled across the floor. He flipped over on his back with a thud. He couldn't move. The sound of his heavy breathing echoed off of the wall. Hokuto called out. Oh, Takeshi can hear him? Yet. Takeshi. Takeshi peeled himself off the floor where he'd been lying and rose slowly. He looked all around. Takeshi put his finger in his ear and wrinkled him quickly. Okay. If you hear singing in the background, I'm so sorry. And here I thought the whole time it was you, Kariaki, and Coco. Takeshi hurried down the corridor. The research facility was almost entirely silent. The research facility was almost entirely silent. The only sound was the echo of Takeshi's shoes against the floor. The corridor wound left and right. He searched around, but didn't find any signs of anyone. Takeshi tilted his head, a bit quizzically. So even after being that long in the water, he didn't drown? What do you think? Yeah, that makes sense. Or maybe the effects of the cure virus have already started. Now, there's no way his DNA could be rewritten so quickly. That might be another explanation for why Takeshi recovered so quickly from jumping into the water. I have no way of knowing. Doesn't matter though, he looks a lot better after walking around for a while. He looks strong even. Takeshi walked down the passageway on his steady legs. He came to an intersection. Checking quickly to the left and right, he set down the path to the left. It was right after that. Without waiting for Hokuto's reply, Takeshi started running. Must be Coco. Coco had fallen down in the corridor. Takeshi rushed over to Coco and lifted up her motionless body. Coco spoke faintly. It appeared that Coco had gone out of the pond by herself before the rescue squad had arrived and had gone off looking for Pippi. Takeshi shook his head dumbfounded. Coco looked innocently at the exasperated Takeshi and said the following words. That was all Coco could say before she passed out. The next instant, Boom. The sound came from up above. Oh, okay, so it hasn't... Okay, it hasn't started... It hasn't completely sunk by this time. Okay, I was confused for a little while earlier. The falling wreckage from Leimu had probably collided with the roof of the research facility. Paradise was still collapsing, it seemed. Takeshi quickly scooped up Koko's body and dashed across the floor. Kicking up his feet, Takeshi screamed to the void. Hokuto answered. Takeshi ran into the examination room. He hit the control panel and closed the door. Strangely, there was no sign of flooding inside IVF. There was no sound of running water, and the chambers had stopped for the time being. But there was still no time to relax. Koko's body was fast reaching its limit. Takeshi laid Koko down on the bed. He ran towards the side of the desk at the corner of the room. He opened one of the storage bins and grabbed something. It was the antibodies for Teeth Blau taken from Tsugumi. Koko hadn't been inoculated with it yet. Oh, she hasn't? Oh, that's right, because she was still in the pod. With other words, Takeshi gave Koko the antibodies. Koko had long passed the stage of suffering and lay there looking limp. Takeshi threw the empty syringe away and held onto Koko's hand as she lay there. A while had passed, but Koko's condition didn't seem to be improving. As a matter of fact, it seemed to be getting worse. Takeshi banged the wall. Takeshi paced around the room with his head down. Occasionally, heavy noises echoed from the ceiling. Takeshi listened to the noises. And then, Takeshi looked as if he had just realized something, whispered to himself. Yeah, that's right. That's why I was confused. I don't know either. Oh. That must have been it. If you leave the cap on an empty plastic bottle, even if you come back years later, the air will still be trapped inside. Which meant that the laboratory should be safe, unless extreme force was added from somewhere, such as a giant piece of partition from Leimu falling on it. Although he didn't seem to be fully convinced, Takeshi nodded upon hearing Hokuto's explanation. By accepting the explanation, he was probably trying to clear one of the many problems facing them at the moment. Okay. As time progressed, Koko's condition got worse and worse. Takeshi kicked the wall. Oh yeah. Even cryogenic suspension. Wait a minute. Don't tell me. Koko and Takeshi are gonna freeze themselves until 17 years later? And if Leimu doesn't fall on it, in which I think it doesn't, I mean, then that means they will survive until they wake up. 17 years later. Whoa. Wow, I think that's what Takeshi is gonna do. He's gonna freeze himself. Yeah, exactly. He's gonna freeze himself. Hoko answered as if anyone would know. Or artificially induced hibernation. In the middle of saying this, Takeshi stopped suddenly. At the same time, Hokuto's thoughts stopped too. And then they screamed out at the same time. Takeshi carried the frail Coco and set her into the pod. Then he started flipping through the manual at full speed, skimming it. It didn't seem too difficult to set up. Takeshi, unlike his usual self, manipulated the computer terminal swiftly and smoothly. Then, all that was left was to turn on the switch. Coco was asleep in the pod. Takeshi reached out his hand to the switch that would close the lid. A split second before he flipped the switch, Coco quietly opened her eyes. Oh, she can see Hokuto? Takeshi looked back. Hokuto was there. Hokutan. Coco this time didn't seem to know Hokuto yet. So, who was the phantom girl that I've been seeing? Huh. You're welcome, Coco. Yep, me, Blinkavinkle. Sounds filled the room. The room temperature felt suddenly lower for some reason. Coco was looking at me. Just me, into my eyes. Are you talking about me? Feeling flustered, I gathered up my courage and spoke up. Huh? Oh, but you know me, Coco. Mr. Fourth Dimension. No, please. How's the one? Oh! Coco's cheeks eased up a little. I get it now. When we're viewing the story through Takeshi's perspective, you can say that Blinkwinkle, us, because we were viewing the story through Takeshi's perspective, so we were Takeshi, but at the same time we were also Blinkwinkle, you know? Huh, guess that makes sense. Coco was asking me. I might have been watching over Coco for all this time. I've been watching over you. I wanted to get closer to you too, but it was probably not possible. Yes, I suppose it was. I suppose it was. Coco and I looked at each other. We were staring at each other, our eyes filled with passion. I felt as though my existence would evaporate any second. All of a sudden, a dark shadow had covered Coco's eyes. Don't be silly. There's no way you're going to die. No matter what, I'll save your life, Coco. I won't let you die. Excitedly, I appealed to her, although she looked to be in some pain. Coco smiled at me happily. My heart seemed that it would surely melt. As he was saying this, Takeshi went to close the pod. Coco. Takeshi stopped in the middle of what he was saying. He looked up at the ceiling, then to the monitor on the wall, and finally to the pod next to Coco. He just leaped to the pod next to him. Next to her. Yeah. Coco looked back and forth between Takeshi and me. She had a worried look on her face, and stared at us with eyes that seemed about to burst into tears. Takeshi petted Coco's head. Takeshi turned on the switch. The lid of the pod slowly went down. Oh, talking to me, Blinkwinkle. Coco's eyes were pointed towards me. Me? What? Huh. Yes. Yes, I promise. space between the lid and the pod itself was almost gone. I could barely see Coco through the narrow slit. Coco faced towards me and whispered one last thing in her tiny voice. Brother. Yeah, exactly, brother. Before I could say anything in reply, the lid had closed. The sound of compressing air filled the room. The low whir of the motor, with a light metallic ring, the pod shut completely. Takeshi pushed another switch attached to the pod's chassis? The cryogenic suspension function was activated. There were small sounds, as though gas were leaking out. The pod slowly cooled down, humming with a slight vibration. It's something Winkle. You guys are confusing me. Yep, we're two different people. Saying this, Takeshi sank his body into an empty pod, the pod next to Coco's. Yeah, he can't go outside or else he'll be crushed by the ocean. And that too. Takeshi stretched his arm from where he lay and flicked the switch for both closing the lid and starting the cryogenic suspension at the same time. The lid started to close, quietly, steadily. Quit calling me Dad, will you? Elegantly. Father. Hokuto took a deep breath, trying to say something, but before he could say it, the lid of the pod had shut. A familiar hissing sound echoed in the room. The cryogenic suspension had activated. The pod cooled down with small vibrations. Just in case, Hokuto and I checked the monitor. The cryogenic suspension in the two pods was functioning properly. There were no signs of abnormality in the bioscans of Coco and Takeshi. The world in 2017, a laboratory at the bottom of the ocean. All that remained there was a perspective. Hokuto and I started to think. Oh yeah, we gotta let everyone know Coco and Takeshi are here in IBF. I'm not sure whether it was I or Hokuto who thought this. Maybe it was because we had switched places so often that the boundary between Hokuto and myself had started to become very vague. Our consciousness had gotten muddy, tangled and intertwined. We were close to a state of fusion. Or maybe, it might have been that way ever since the beginning. My thoughts were the same as Hokuto's, and Hokuto's thoughts were the same as mine. Being me and being Hokuto wasn't all that different. We had been one since long ago, and will continue to be one. But that thought just went through my mind. It wasn't the time to be engrossed in such thoughts. Our consciousness flew up to the floating island. A miniature submarine was floating on the ocean surface, swaying in the waves and being teased along by time. It left a carefree trail in the deep blue ocean. I searched inside of it, but Tsugumi had already disappeared. She must be somewhere on the floating island. I expanded my sight and looked down at the entire artificial island. I saw someone, but it wasn't Tsugumi. It was Yubusai Harukana. Hokuto and I flew down near her side. Walking along with Yubusai Harukana was Pippi. He was soaking wet, which meant that must have been right after you had picked up Pippi from the ocean surface. She was walking down the trail attended by a few men who seemed to be staff members at Lehman. She was walking towards a helicopter. She was probably on her way to a large hospital or something. She looked surprisingly healthy. She was walking steadily without support, although she seemed in a dark mood. At least her health seemed fine. The antibodies must have worked, just like with Takeshi. Anyway, I need to tell her what had happened to Takeshi and Coco. It was Hokuto who shouted at her. Oh, she's not wearing a lab coat anymore. Staff members darted skeptical looks at her when she started talking to herself all of a sudden. There was no way she could have known Hokuto. Hokuto hadn't even been born in this world, and she wouldn't have believed us if we had told her we're talking to you from 17 years in the future. Hokuto told her. We're in the past? Oh yeah, we are in the past right now. Oh, I was confused for a minute. We're in the past right now. Hokuto told her that Coco and Takeshi had been left in a laboratory and that they were under cryogenic suspension in the pods. Wait. If we're in the past and we're Hokuto, we're using Hokuto's body, but how could that be? Hokuto wasn't even born. What? People looked at Hokuto and me and gave a loud bark. Oh, okay, never mind. She's just hearing things, or, Hokuto is speaking to her through the mind. People started barking again. She jumped her head down as if deep in thought, closed her eyes and massaged her temples with her fingertips. After seeming distressed in this manner for a while, she must have reached a conclusion. You looked up in a different direction and spoke. Hokuto and I went back to the world 2034. Surprisingly, the future had been completely altered. Takeshi was there, so was Coco. Oh. Yubusai Harukana was here, as was Yubusai Akikana. Tsugumi was there along with Sarah. Sora was there, Kabiraki was there, and so was Hokuto. They were chatting happily in a circle. I didn't know what had happened, but I was just relieved. The future had been altered. But how did it happen? I suppose Yubusai Harukana had kept her promise with Hokuto, so Coco and Takeshi were rescued immediately afterwards. Okay, so they didn't stay 17 years in that pod. That would be too long, and who will monitor it, right? In this version of history, Takeshi hadn't died 17 years ago, but was still alive and well. So in this world, Tsugumi didn't have to send Hokuto and Sarah to the institution. In this version of the future, Hokuto and Sarah didn't have to be separated. Besides, I understood that the incident in 2034 was planned so I, Blink of Wrinkle, would come into existence. It was planned to have me descend in this world so that the past would be altered and that Coco and Takeshi would be saved. But in this history, Coco and Takeshi had already been rescued safely 17 years ago. Therefore, there was no longer any way to grab my attention and make me appear in this world. So Yubusai Harukana didn't have to come up with an outrageous plan to trap everyone at Leimu, which meant that the incident starting on May 1st, 2034 hadn't taken place in this history. None of them had been trapped in Leimu, which meant that Yubusai Harukana had no reason to lie to Yubusai Akikana. Yubusai Harukana must have told Yubusai Akikana the truth in this history, so they were all able to spend their lives peacefully from 2017 until now. They all had lived safely with time just passing by peacefully and slowly. And that was what I was seeing right then. Hey, but wait a second. I need to think a little more about this. In 2017, Takeshi and Coco were saved by Yubusai Harukana's actions. So if the time passed by peacefully, eventually it would be the year 2034. There wouldn't be... Wait, never mind. There wouldn't be any accident. Blink Wrinkle wouldn't appear. What would happen then? Hokuto in this world wouldn't talk to Takeshi in the past, which is 2017. In the past that I know, Hokuto had funneled his raw, untamed force and had shouted to Takeshi's body lying on the bottom of the ocean. Dad! Dad! Don't you die on me! But in the past retraced from this future, Takeshi had never heard his son scream. That meant Takeshi would have long decomposed on the bottom of the ocean. Since Takeshi hadn't come back to life, Coco would have been left in the hallway and both of them would die. Because the incident in 2017 had already taken place as a historical fact, which meant that even in the past connected directly to this world, the incident in 2007 would have been avoided. Therefore, this world could never be possible. It could never exist. It was a paradox. If this world could exist, this question would naturally arise. Who had saved Takeshi who's alive here today? Was it Hokuto from a different future? Was it that Hokuto from a world where there had been an accident in 2034 who had saved Takeshi? No, that was not possible. Because in order for the incident to take place in 2034, the condition must be that Takeshi could not be saved in 2017. Which meant, in order for Takeshi to come back to life at the bottom of the ocean, the events had to take place in 2034. And in order for Coco to go under cryogenic suspension, the events had to take place in 2034. Therefore, this peaceful world can never exist. Just as I reached this conclusion, Takeshi, who was cheerfully talking with everyone, suddenly started to decompose. What? His skin became soggy and peeled off by itself. His exposed muscle fibers became dark and putrid, their surface flaking away. Ugh. His cells started to dissolve and run like mud dripping to the ground. His abdomen burst open, spilling his internal organs. These descriptions! His hair fell out in chunks, exposing the white skull underneath. All that was left were white bones with pieces of red flesh stuck to them. Eventually, even the skeleton collapsed with a dry sound, and at the same time Coco disappeared without a sound. Confused, Hokuto and I flew back to 2017. Yubusai Harukana was still standing in the same place. If she rescues him, it does create a paradox. I cannot stand it any longer! I pushed away Hokuto's consciousness and jumped to the front. You have to wait for 17 years! I told her that before anything else. 17 years from now, I will reappear before you. I promise! Oh, so that's why the Olo Yubusai Harukana said, I've been waiting for you. We've all been waiting for you. Oh, I get it now. Puckering out her lips, and Yu cocked her head to the side. Just listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. I explained to her about the following. 17 years from now, I will reappear to you all. I just told you that, right? But in order for me to reappear, you will need to trick me. So what I'm asking you to do is trick me 17 years from now. Trick me into falsely believing that it's the year 2017 again. When that happens, I'll still be the third eye, Blink Wrinkle, and that will cause me to reveal myself. And unless I reveal myself, neither Takeshi nor Coco will be saved. Because in order to restore life to Takeshi, who sank to the bottom of the ocean, I will need to appear as myself and go back to the year 2017. If I do not appear myself, Takeshi is going to rot at the bottom of the ocean. And if Takeshi fails to reach the laboratory, Coco will be left in the hallway. Both of them will die. Do you get it? So, No matter what happens, you need to stay away from IBF until 17 years from now. If you save Takeshi and Coco now, the events in 2034 will fail to take place, and if that happens, I will not appear. And if I do not appear, then I will be unable to save Takeshi and Coco in 2017, which will form a time paradox and Takeshi and Coco will disappear. I'll repeat it again, okay? In order for me to appear in the year 2034, you must not rescue Takeshi and Coco now. I know it is painful, but that is the only way. And as for the way to trick me, well, how can I explain? You will need a bit of preparation. Although it should not be too difficult. You certainly have enough time. 17 years actually. So it should not be impossible. I will tell you what to do. Are you ready? Wow. So Blinkwinkle himself does the whole thing. He makes up the whole plan. Because, yeah, so it's kind of like a whole loop. It is a whole loop. Whoa. The day to act on the plan will be on Monday, May 1st, 2034. First, Sarah will be visiting Leimu for a school event on that day. Oh yeah, Sarah's Tsukumi's daughter, who will be born next January. She is actually a twin, and her twin's brother name is Hokuto. But due to unavoidable circumstances, Tsugumi, Sarah and Hokuto will be separated. So you could probably just tell Tsugumi you will be reunited with your son and daughter at Leimu. If you tell her that, Tsugumi will come to Leimu for sure. Next, you can also invite Hokuto in the same way. If you tell him you will meet your mother and sister, he will also come, alone. You must also have your daughter Yubasai Akikana work as a Leimu attendant just as you did. If you coach her, you can lead her in that direction, right? I just like how just you is just listening to everything. And you must not tell anything to Sora. It is best that you erase her memories of the incident in 2017. There is nothing to worry about because all the backup memories are saved in a terabyte disk. Ah, okay. And finally, you need the cooperation of young Kabiraki. 70 years from now, Kabiraki must look and act absolutely like Takeshi Kurenari. So he must begin training to look and act just like Takeshi. Whoa, do not worry, he will catch on in 17 years. These 6 people are required for the plan. All you have to do is simply throw them all together into Leimu on May 1st, 2034 and have an accident similar to the one in 2017. If you can arrange this, things will work out by themselves. The time in question will be 1 week from the 1st to the 7th. For these 7 days, you must not interfere with them, no matter what kind of crisis happens. Understood? They will survive by themselves. And should I show no sign of reappearing by 9 PM on the 6th, then I ask of you to rescue them all. Is that clear? Will you do what I just told you? You must not forget. On May 1st, 2034, you're going to trick me. Understood? Oh, wait. I meant not me. To be exact, it's actually Hokuto. I want you to trick Hokuto. You must trick him so that he will believe it is the year 2017. 17 years from now, without remembering why, I might ask you something like, why have you called me here? Then I want you to answer this way. I only followed your directions. That is all. It was kind of lengthy, but do you understand? You got it, right? I need you to understand this. Yubasai Harukana was surprisingly accepting. As if overwhelmed by enthusiasm, she kept nodding her head. But I was still worried about whether she truly understood everything. Explaining to her again in more detail, I repeated the same words, almost as if I were trying to hypnotize her. It took several more hours for her to precisely capture the whole picture. Hokuto and I made sure that she understood one last time, then we left her. And then we're back here. The world in 2034 had returned to normal. Hokuto and I were still confronting Yubasai Harukana. She kept her mouth closed as if she had spoken about everything. You, Yubasai Akikana, stood next to her, also wordless. In the cold silence, I tried to reorganize in my mind what had happened so far and started wondering, why am I here? I found the answer easily. I have appeared because I was tricked by myself from the past. I mean, the mastermind behind the incident in 2034 was no one else other than myself. In 2017, I had told you to trick me, and therefore I had appeared in the world in 2034, having been tricked by myself. Wow. Wow. Thanks to the strength of Hokuto's appeal, Takeshi had come back to life and saved Koko, helped her into the pod, and activated the cryogenic suspension. So, that was what happened. That moment when Hokuto had shouted out "Dad!" at the dark bottom of the ocean. Everything had happened for the sake of that moment. Wow. Just wow. It had been taking 17 years, going back in time, in order to bring the dead back to life. That was everything. Koko and Takeshi was still sleeping 357 feet under the ocean, so I need to get there, in order to save them. Before I realized it, I was already sprinting across the island. So they really did sleep for 17 years. I ran on the grass and jumped into the deep brush. Dodging the branches, slicing through the wind, I ran like an arrow released. As I pumped my legs, I thought, how can I get to the bottom of the ocean? I cut through the woods, I was thinking. I sprinted over the curving arch of a bridge and reached the docks, the harbor for the floating island. I looked around and didn't see anything that resembled a mini sub. As I tried to catch my breath, I walked around the docks. I noticed there were broken pieces of rock in the middle of the open area. All of the pieces scattered around were huge. They were as big as my whole body. The surface of the rocks had a refined smoothness. Looking closely, I found that some letters were carved on it. Were above sky. There were meaningless letters jumbled on the pieces of rock near me. There were letters too on the other pieces. I put the pieces together and tried to guess the original sentence. It said, "Where is heaven?" Above the sky and at your feet. It's a stone monument, I whispered. The monument must have fallen down for some reason and had broken into pieces. Was it due to the tremor from the accident? Or had it been the passengers who in state of panic had rushed toward the docks and knocked it over? I had no idea what the cause was. I picked up one of the smaller pieces. Oh, it's heavy. It was probably as heavy as Koko. And then, a thought just hit me. Heavy as Koko? If I jump into the ocean holding this piece of rock in my arms. Before I had time to think it over, my feet were starting to move already. And he can do that because Hokuto is very, very strong. Remember he carried Sarah all the way up? Yeah, I ran hard towards the ocean. The moment I reached my maximum speed, I kicked off the ground with all my strength. My body flew in the air. I jumped high over the fence. The blue water surface swayed below my eyes. I splashed into the ocean holding the heavy piece of stone. The letters on the piece said, "Heaven." Holding heaven tightly to my chest, I plummeted into the darkness. As I sank deeper and deeper, it felt as if I were running fast with the wind against my face. The seawater pressed hard on my eardrums. Unable to pop my ears because I held heaven in my arms, I simply endured the pain. Water pressure, incredibly high, squeezed my body. I felt as though my joints were about to snap into pieces. My chest felt as though it would be crushed. Deeper, deeper, deeper. The deeper I went, the more the water pressure rose. My lungs could not stand it. I decided to open my mouth. Bloop. The air in my lungs came out and a large amount of water poured into them. I automatically gagged and started to choke. Even then, cold seawater filled my windpipe. As my lungs filled up with water, I felt despair welling up inside of me. How far had I gone? I looked up and saw the water surface far above. I couldn't go back now. I looked below. I couldn't see anything. There was only the blue-black darkness. I couldn't see the bottom of the ocean yet. No matter how fast I sank, 357 feet was still very long. I went deeper and deeper, but scenery was unchanged. The darkness, darkness, darkness. A world covered in darkness. It occurred to me that I might just be swallowed by some deep ocean trench and keep falling off forever. I began to feel desperate. The only positive thing was that somehow the pain had disappeared. I felt that my conscious mind could still be clear as the sense of pain had numbed. I realized that for the first time in my life. Hey, wait. To begin with, the body wasn't belong not to me but to Hokuto. Thinking about that, I felt guilty. I need to return it in one piece. I couldn't see the bottom yet. My brain was running out of oxygen and I started to lose consciousness. My limbs were numb. The numbness soon turned into spasms. Against my will, my limbs started to go wild. I almost dropped heaven. quickly pulled it close to me and held it tighter to my chest, going deeper, deeper, and deeper. I must have looked like a priest at an exorcism gone wrong, possessed by an evil spirit, my whole body twitching wildly. Plonk! I hit a rock surface and had stopped going down. Splash! Ah, now he's in IBF, which is still good, in good condition. I burst forth from the water surface with a great force. Putting my face above the pool, I started coughing hard, trying to expel all of the seawater in my lungs. I grabbed the rim of the pool. I took a deep, deep breath. I coughed hard as I was breathing in and chugged up a large amount of water. I repeated that a few times, and now really understood the suffering Takeshi had gone through. Ouch! I crawled up weakly on the floor. Whew! There was no time to relax. I started running towards the examination room. It had been 17 years since I had last been there. I felt the heaviness of all the past years as I smelled the stale odor in the room. The paint on the capsule pod had partially peeled off, and the surface of it was rough and weathered. Manipulating the computer terminals, I checked on the status of the pod. Both Coco and Takeshi were safe. Under cryogenic suspension, their body temperatures had been kept at around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, with their heart rates and breathing reduced to only a few times a minute. They seemed to be in good health. The cryogenic suspension device seemed to have worked properly without a single glitch for 17 years. Wow. I deactivated the hibernation program for both of the pods. Now we get a reunion. Finally, Coco and Takeshi was set to awake at any time. First, I opened Coco's pod. Wow. Coco. Coco. Coco! Oh, yeah. It's me, Coco. I love this song so much. It's just... I love it. I came to save you. Yes. I kept my promise, didn't I? Coco rubbed her eyelids and blinked repeatedly. Yep, I came back, Coco. Coco jumped and hugged me. Oh wait, was it actually Hokuto she had hugged? Was it me or was it Hokuto? It was both of you. Was it Hokuto who wasn't me, or was it me who wasn't Hokuto? I did not fully understand, but still, I hugged Coco tightly too. I know. I know. But you see, Coco, I'm not your brother, actually. Half a brother could call someone who is like a brother. Oh, Coco. Where's that written? Coco stepped away from me. Coco and I stared at each other as if we were drawn to each other. Sure. Oh, Coco. What? My heart skipped a few beats. Well, but I still, Oof, it all started to make sense to me. Coco and I have been sharing the same time. I must have been sharing experiences with Coco through Takeshi's point of view. Yeah, I had always been by Coco's side. I don't think so, really. Okay, Coco, whatever you want. What? Before I got a chance to ask her back, Coco jumped into my arms again. Coco had regained all her strength. Maybe the antibody had kicked in while she was under cryogenic suspension. Whatever it was, I was relieved. My heart was filled with waves of happiness. It had taken me a while, but it was finally Takeshi's turn. I gave the body back over to Hokuto since I wanted them to have a family moment. Hokuto opened Takeshi's pod. It's nice to have a very young father and mother. All of a sudden, Takeshi opened his eyes. He looked around confused. Takeshi realized that Hokuto's face was in front of him and said, "Who on earth are you?" Yep. Takeshi took a close look at Hokuto's face. He looked over Hokuto's whole body. He closed his eyes tightly and started banging his forehead with his palm. He opened his eyes and glared at the examination room wall. Then Takeshi gasped as if he realized something and looked at Hokuto again. So you're that Hokuto. No. Raising his voice like a child, Hokuto rubbed his face against Takeshi's chest. Takeshi pushed back Hokuto. Takeshi tapped Hokuto on the back. Takeshi raised himself and stretched his legs outside the pod. Coco rushed at him. Coco hastily jumped at Takeshi and hugged him. Takeshi's still wet? Coco jumped at Takeshi and hugged him just like Coco. Come on, don't reject your own son. Takeshi forcefully peeled him away. A day, 2 days? Oh no, Takeshi, you've been sleeping for 17 years. It gets better. More than a week. 3 months, maybe? Coco and Coco closed their eyes and shook their heads. Only been a few hours. Hokuto and Coco looked at each other, nodded and said, I like how his head just goes both ways. Yep, after a while, Yubasai Haruka took a small submersible to pick us up at the IVF pool. Inside the mini-sub, she scolded Hokuto. Oh, you. Yup. She kept picking on Hokuto until they reached the surface. Hokuto must have been thinking, it wasn't really me who decided to jump into the ocean, it was Blinkwinkle. So Blinkwinkle is the stupid one. The whole time, Takeshi still hadn't accepted the fact that he had been sleeping for 17 years. No matter how many times they tried to explain, he just wouldn't listen. Therefore, Takeshi still couldn't believe that Hokuto was truly his son. Oh, this image. I kept seeing this image on YouTube. I'm like, this is a spoiler, sort of. I don't know. It's a really nice image, though. Look at that. They're all happy, and Takeshi's still wet. Actually, everybody's wet. No, the robotic dog Pippi. Under the bright sunlight, Takeshi, Koko, and Hokuto and Pippi were hanging around. Good morning. Oh. More school? Yes, you do, Takeshi. Oh, this is so fun to read. Yep, father of 2 children at your age. Listening to the cheerful laughter, I thought to myself, I should be going back to where I came from. As it began to fade, I heard only their happy voices behind me. That's just weird. Really, well, good for you. Oh, come on, you said it yourself. Oh, poor Takeshi. Awoo. Stop changing my nickname. Where's the punchline? Oh. Come on, no. Oh no. They're just so happy for Takeshi to be there. They're just freaking annoying Takeshi right now. I decided to leave as I was hearing their happy voices. What? Oh, excuse me. We're both from the sun? We can both use psychic power. And that was the ending. That was nice. That was awesome. Like, oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. You can see the sun, you can see the moon. Wow, that was really good. I don't know what else to say about it, but Ever17, wow, it was a good game, and that was a really good ending. I loved it. Now, as for what I'm gonna do next, well, first let me try to think of something else to say about the game. All I can say was that it was amazing. I mean, it didn't have a lot of plot twists, but it had plot twist in it. The one mind-blowing one was that, our protagonists were different people, and the kid that we were seeing was actually the same person, and that was cool. Oh, there's a timeline. Tom Flablin? Who's that? Fabelin? Yuchiko's missing. Fukuyagami's born on the 17th. Oh, by the way, December 17th, that's my parents' anniversary. And Mega Man's anniversary. Just FYI. Oh yeah, Julia, that was Tsugumi's friend. I kinda wanted to see the reunion between Takeshi and Tsugumi though. I wish they showed that. Or maybe they are gonna show it, I'm not sure. But anyway, what I was gonna say is that I forgot. But as for another visual novel, yes, I will confirm I will do Remember 11. Yes, maybe in a year or so, maybe sooner. I want to get better equipment, like a better microphone, and know how to edit better. And also, I want to work on my commentary a bit more, you know? I mean, you saw these last few episodes, my commentary has improved. Like, I've been speaking much more. Though I like to stay silent, my thoughts, I like to give more of my thoughts now. So I think I can do Remember 11, though I've heard that maybe it's a bit more confusing. Or something, I don't know. And I know that Remember 11 seminar. I know in Remember 11 that I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. Whatever. But anyway, yep. Blink Winkle appears. This is a nice ending song. That answered a lot of questions, wow. I might have a few questions if I think hard enough. But I'm guessing they will be answered easily. don't know what to think. I'm just talking. Yeah, I don't know what to think. Oh, apparently there's a epilogue for Sora and Takeshi's roots. I mean, Sora and Tsugumi's roots. So I'll check that out after this. And yeah, that's it. This is Ever17, and I enjoyed it. I mean, sure, its pacing was bad. And speaking of pacing and bad pacing, Never 7. I tried to do Never 7 the other day. I kept pressing the F3 button to skip a lot, because I just could not read all that slice of life. Oh, okay, wait. I'm gonna finish my thought before I continue. But I could not deal with the slice of life. I could not. Even if I pressed F3, I did not have the patience to go through the whole game. So I had to go into Wikipedia and spoil myself. I know that was like the worst thing ever. And now if I had been a bit more patient with the game, I would have been truly mind blown, because holy crap, that end twist for Never 7, wow, whoa, it's pretty mind blowing stuff. But whatever. Anyway, I'll continue.